Have you ever stopped to think about the fans behind a band? What is it about the music that keeps fans coming back for more? Or is there more? My name is Renae Lipsmeyer, and I am the host of this podcast, The Space Between Podcasts, the podcast where we talk about the fans of the Dave Matthews Band. Each week, a fellow DMB fan joins the show to discuss their journey with the band. Welcome to the Space Between Podcast. Hey guys, welcome to another episode of the Space Between Podcast, the podcast where we talk about the fans of a band who's been making music for over 30 years. So if this is your very first time listening to this podcast, we are going to talk about one band and only one band. It is the band, the Dave Matthews Band. So every week I have a new guest on the show who is a fan of the Dave Matthews Band to tell their journey with the Dave Matthews Band. So today is like every week I have a guest, and I love this guest because he's from the South. Like, you already get points for being from the South because I'm always like the Southern girl on this podcast, and most everyone else is like not, right? And so finally I'm recording with someone where I'm like not the only one that sounds like this. So So Alabama, tell us who you are and where in the world in Alabama do you live?
Absolutely. Well, my name is CJ. I'm 28 years old. I'm from good old Birmingham, Alabama. Born and bred in Alabama. It's just kind of how it's always been, family around and everything like that. And so just kind of keep it casual.
I think it's before we started recording, you told me a story of traveling back from a show, headed back to Alabama. And of course, you drove 13, 14 hours by yourself. Can you just like tell the listeners the little story of like what they thought about the way you sound?
Oh, absolutely. So I'm coming back from night 2 and Deer Creek, of course, or night 2 of Alpine. I stopped in a town. I still didn't even know the name of the town. I checked into the hotel and I asked the lady where I was. But anyways, I get settled into my room, go down to the pool in the hot tub, and one of the kids in the hot tub goes, why do you sound that way? And I said, buddy, I'm not understanding. What do you mean? And he goes, what are you, British or something? And I said, no, I'm not British or anything like that. And his mom kind of comes out and she goes, oh, it's because you're from the South. I was like, oh, okay, so I'm British and Southern. I like it. That's pretty good.
You're fancy. You're fancy. That's what I think about a Southern accent. I mean, you can be fancy and be from the South, right? Have you ever been to like Nashville? There is a bunch of fancy people in Nashville.
All right, Nashville is super nice. People are underestimating the South, okay?
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of great things in the South. Well, I'm glad to have another Southerner on the show. So, of course, we're going to talk about the Dave Matthews Band. I don't know if you've ever heard of them, but something tells me that you have because I was literally watching one of your live streams on the Couch Tour just like a few days ago. So, I mean, have you ever heard of this band I'm talking of, the Dave Matthews Band?
I keep seeing this thing, something about a D&B Couch Tour. I don't know if they sell couches.
Yes, they do.
They just, I don't know if is it kind of like a podcast where people go in and show their couches one by one? Is that how that works?
I think so. It sounds like that.
Hey, this is fancy. This is my couch.
Yeah, I mean, fancy couches. Yeah, yes.
Couches, right?
It's a whole podcast about couches.
It's about couches and how my couch is better than yours.
I mean, I don't know. So when was the very first time that you even heard of the Dave Matthews Band?
Yeah, absolutely. So with me being 28, I was only born in 1996, and 99% of the people listening or have heard my story, etc., have said, "Oh my gosh, you're just a baby," and I'm like, "Hey, thank you very much. I appreciate that. I don't know how to take that as it is. Be that it may that I can't control when I'm born." However, to answer your question, the first time I really heard Dave Matthews Band was around 2004, 2005. I was at a minor league baseball game with my mom and my sister at the time, and I just remember hearing this bow, 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 and I was like, "What?" And I was like, "This is really cool." And it was one of those things, it's very nostalgic. It kind of sticks with you, whether your memory, whether you have short-term memory loss or if you have the memory of an elephant. It's one of those things that kind of sticks with you, because it has a sentimental thing to you. And, just because somebody's not sentimental doesn't mean they can't remember something that of value that happened to them.
Right, right.
And
An association of that. Yeah.
that is precisely it. I remember my sister had a friend. His name was Duke, who was actually the mascot for the Catfish. And so he actually brought me a baseball that night that was a foul ball, and I was really excited about that. And sure enough, the next thing, the walk up song for the baseball player, it ended up being Ants Marching.
No way.
And so it was one of those things that's how I kind of correlate when I think of old and good times like that. That's really when I first heard of Dave Matthews Band was in that case.
Yeah, yeah. So you're leaving the game. I mean, what's your next thoughts? Like, do you start looking for their music, or did that just kind of sit on the shelf in your brain for a couple years and marinated, and then you found them later? Like, how does that story
It
continue?
was one of those things that I didn't know what to think. So at the
Yeah.
time, I'm 9 and 10 years old. And it sounds awful because this isn't about my life story by any means. But whenever my dad wanted to go cheat on my mom, and it was horrible that we were okay with it because I still didn't know really about it at the time. It was just a way for us to be able to kind of be out of the picture for that evening or for the next day,
Mm-hmm.
whatever.
Mm-hmm.
So it wouldn't be just a one-time thing that we would go to these game or go to a game. It
Yeah.
would happen, like a Tuesday or a Friday, and I would take a friend of mine and we would go and we would just as kids at a baseball game, whatever it is, we would play football kind of over by the bullpen and see all these cool players. But it was always nice because whenever that same guy's walk up song would play, I think he was the shortstop at the time, I would always have to stop and listen to it.
Yeah.
It was like, whoa, 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 whoa. So we're playing football or we're playing whatever, throwing the baseball, and I'm like, whoa, whoa, I've got to stop and listen to this.
Oh, that's
And
awesome.
so this would be a time where, if I'm not mistaken, I had just an MP3 player. My sister would upload her stuff and things like that too. And then at nighttime, I would actually go and steal her not iPod, excuse me, her MP3 player, and I would try and figure out how to find it on there.
Uh-huh.
Again, I'm so young at the time. I don't know that you have to download things. I don't know that
Right.
iTunes wasn't a thing. These things weren't. You're still burning CDs. You're using BearShare, LimeWire, all the above, and
Yes.
and so I don't know what you have to do. And I remember getting frustrated because I can't find this song. Didn't know what it was called.
Mm-hmm.
Didn't know who it was. And it wasn't until later on, circa 2000, probably 2007. So maybe a couple years later, as you were mentioning, where it was kind of marinating, it finally came back. And my mom and I and my sister went one night to a game, and I was like, "Wait a minute, there's that song again." And I was like, whoa, like, hey, what is this song? I need to know what this song is. So my sister's in high school at this point, and she finally tells
Uh-huh.
me what this song is and who it is. And I was like, oh, okay, I need to find out about more of these because yeah. So I'm 13, no, 12, 11, 12 at the time. And I'm
Wow.
like, I need to find out more about these bands. So my sister had a huge influence on me growing up, like huge, 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 huge influence.
Yeah.
Mother raised me very well, but again, with that father situation and all, there wasn't a whole lot of him being involved. So, whenever my
Yeah.
sister and I would travel, and she would actually surprise me at my travel ball baseball games, when we would go home, we would actually be listening to Dave Matthews Band, and she would show me Satellite. She would show me Ants Marching, Warehouse, these types of songs, of course. And it's like, wow, this is really cool. So it was another one of those moments that's what I correlate with those times because
Yes.
now we're not so close, unfortunately. When
Mm.
things go wrong, when I have that 13 and a half hours to drive back home by myself and I hear the different live tracks and stuff, it automatically brings up the nostalgia and you're like, man,
Yeah.
those were
Yeah.
those were good times.
Oh, that's amazing. I love that. I love that so much. And so yeah, you couldn't help but to hear those songs and think of the baseball games and think of your sister and oh, I love what music has the power to. I've always said that
Yes.
music was kind of like a time machine.
Yeah,
It can
absolutely.
literally transport our thoughts to times that we probably would not think of from day
Yeah.
to day without those memories. So music is I can't say enough good things about it. So after that, and again, you're young, 10, 11, 12, 13, in that
Yeah.
age, which first of all, kudos to you for having such amazing music taste at that
I
age, because
appreciate that. Yeah.
I mean, 1991 was when the band came out. I was 11, so I'm in that time frame
Yeah.
that you were in, and I didn't find them. So I love the fact that you found them so young, because you've had such, even though you haven't been with the band from their conception, you
Yeah.
have still been with the band a very long time,
Yeah,
and
absolutely. Oh
you're
my
still
gosh.
very young. So I mean,
Feels
this
like a
band
very,
has
very
been
long
part of,
time, obviously.
yeah,
Yeah.
basically your whole life. I mean,
Yes.
if you heard about them and kind of started thinking about them at age 10, I mean, at this point they really have been like one of the longest things in your life, other
Almost
than
20
your parents
years.
and sisters, right? And
Yes.
so what does the continuing story look like? So you are so young, you can't just up and go to a concert. So
Absolutely.
what do you do next?
100%. So thankfully at this time, CDs, of course, are a thing. That's the biggest thing. The
Yeah.
iPad, or excuse me, the iPod, if I'm not mistaken, was starting to make a hit in 2008, 2009, 2010. But still, CDs were a thing. And my sister being in high school, obviously, sophomore, junior, and senior, that was her thing. She was a cheerleader. They listen to music. They do this
Yeah.
and that, etc. But one of those times that I had mentioned to you where we'd be coming back from, she would surprise me at one of my travel ball games in LaGrange, Georgia. We would listen to these songs and stuff, and I'll never forget us going through a Burger King, and she's like, "Yeah, let's just have a good time. Let's just have a blast with the dollar menu for Burger King."
Yes.
Got like a double bacon cheeseburger, got some fries, got this and that. And
It's a good night.
We listened to Dave the whole hour on the way home. And it was just so
Mm.
nice. And one of her friends, Ben Corley, Ben, if you end up listening to this, shout out to you, buddy. He was, if I'm not mistaken, he was at the house waiting for us because they were still gonna hang out. But for whatever reason, we couldn't get in the house. And so it was just kind of muddy outside in the front yard, and we had kind of a bigger front yard. And I'll never forget just singing the songs in my head, but still in my baseball uniform and I'm sliding through the mud, just having a blast.
Oh my God.
And it's just the greatest time. And so we finally get inside, I shower up, etc. Within the next couple of days, though, Ben wants to take me golfing, and him and my sister were real good friends then. And so I think we're just going golfing. This is a thing. And since her name is Tasha, that's my sister's name. We
Uh-huh.
have this 5.5 year age gap. I end up, gravitating towards people her age.
Mm-hmm.
That goes with the good. That goes with the bad. That's the
Yeah.
drama. It's the maturity, the immaturity, all the above. You don't get to just
Right.
select obviously one or two things. And so I'm acting as if I am that age and stuff. And
Yeah.
again, I'm still super young, but Ben and I are sitting in the parking lot of Lakewood Golf Course in Phoenix City, Alabama, where I'm originally from. And he turns on the songs, and I'll never forget. He's like, "Yeah, man, this is what Dave meant when he wrote this song. This is what the band was doing whenever they played this. This is what came first. This is what came after." And it was just like, "Yo, this is so cool. Like kids my age weren't thinking about that.
No, no,
They
they
had
weren't.
no idea. I had such a blessing to hear this and have such joy about that I was like, dude, this is so cool, man. I'm hanging out with my sister's friends. I'm acting older as if I am their age.
Right.
Like, life is good at the time. And
Right.
again, I can't help but bring up the word nostalgia because that's what it really boils down to, is that I can still think of it now, going back and saying, man, the less I knew though, in terms of what was really going on in my life, it was better times,
Yeah.
obviously. And so
Yeah.
that's what would happen. I would end up hanging out with Ben in the car. Tasha and I would go to one of my sports games, and that was the coolest thing. And so, up until probably she headed off to college at the University of Alabama. That's what I would look forward to doing, and end up still I would actually steal her CD player, and that's what I would just listen to because she would burn a CD and everything like that with on it.
Dang, dang.
For
So I
sure.
can kind of see that, like, through these relationships, that may be where you got your first little spark of love for like digging into the history of the band and kind of figuring out the order, because there was already history, of course, when you found the band. And so there was so much to learn to kind of bring you up to speed. Not that that's necessary in order to like
No,
a
it
band
is
or
not.
listen to a
Yeah.
band, but I love the fact that you enjoy kind of knowing why it is the way it is, right? Like,
Yeah.
because there is such a beautiful story and how this band was created and how each piece is changed. And then, then this happened and all the little branches of the tree that is the Dave Matthews Band. And so I love that you're into that. And we'll talk about that more. But hey, do you want to do just a few trivia questions with
Of
me? And then we're
course.
going to get right back to your story. But,
I
I
can't say I
kind
know
of,
the answers, but I'd be more than glad
no,
to
well,
play.
that's okay. I think that this is the perfect time because we're talking about history. And
Yeah.
so when I talk about trivia, I always say, it's okay if you don't know the answers because this is
Yeah.
an opportunity to learn more about the history of this band that we're talking
Yeah.
about, which of course is the Dave Matthews Band. So we'll do a couple trivia questions and then we'll jump back into your story because I definitely want to kind of go into what prompted you to go see your first live show and kind of how that changed your thoughts about them or opened your eyes more about this band. So
Excellent.
okay, so we're going to play this as if our listeners who will be listening to this can play along, whether they're in their car or running, whatever they're doing, listening to this podcast. So if you know the answer right away, just kind of hold on. We're going to give a little bit of time so that the listeners can be thinking about the answers too, and then I'll see if you know it, and if you don't, that's okay. We'll go forward. So let's see. Our first question. In 1996, Dave Matthews and Tim Reynolds teamed up to record Live at Luther College. This was released as a 2 CD live set. Where is Luther College? I know that's such an interesting question, but for me, it was like,
I think I remember that. Not remember. I'm sorry, but I think I actually know that.
oh, please tell us.
Is it Iowa or Indiana?
It is Iowa. You know what? I'm going to give it CJ. You're the first person on this show to ever get that right.
You're kidding.
I am not kidding.
I think at
Because
one point, Live at Luther College is one of my favorite of all time. I mean, it is just so good. I actually have a relationship that I was in my high school years that I listened to and tried to introduce her to that two set. And, she liked it as well. And so I'll never forget actually trying to look up where that was. And that's been 12 years or so. So
that's amazing. That's amazing. As I asked that question, and even as I read it for the first time myself, I had never thought about it. I mean, because I just don't. Like, I know the CD, I know that it's Live at Luther College, I know the music that came from, but that's all. I never dug into where is Luther College? I don't know, but we have here at the Space Between podcast. So, anything, I think about everything when it comes to this silly band, but I would have guessed, and I think most people think this way, that it would have been East Coast, only because of the time frame being early in the 90s ish. And then, of course, that's where the band origins are from. And so we've all kind of just thought East Coast. But when I read Iowa, I just was very surprised. It's in a town, and I don't want to mess up the name, but it's like Decorah, or it looks like Decorah, Iowa. So
it beats me.
That's
for whatever reason I associated it with corn and that type of thing at the time too.
Oh,
and we were just talking about that, and so that kind of honest to God, if we hadn't just talked about this, there's a good chance that I wouldn't have remembered.
Well, I mean, it all happened for a reason. You got it right. So you're 1 for 1 now. Okay, are you ready for question 2?
Let's do it.
Okay. What band was Carter playing with from 1984 to 1990? I'm looking for the name of the band.
Okay, gotcha.
And as you're thinking about this, and as our listeners are thinking about this, if you're listening to this and you have not heard my interview with Rob from the Almanac, we actually dig really deep into this question. So be sure to check it out in the podcast app. So again, what band was Carter playing with from 1984 to 1990? Any thoughts, CJ?
I'm going to take a mulligan here.
Okay. Well,
it's my first mulligan, yeah.
Dun, da, da, da. I feel like I need to play the Jeopardy music, a drum roll, anything. Thank you. The name of the band was Secrets. I don't know. I mean, it
So
was,
for whatever reason, I thought it was hidden something. In my brain, it was kind of there, but no, I was off.
but
I
it
was
was,
off.
I mean, it was hidden. It was secret. Like you were in the
Yeah,
right path. Like you were like,
I
I
was
don't know.
sort of
I
there,
can't
just
find it. And that was exactly right. Like you had found it. You just hadn't found the word, but
yes,
you knew,
that's
you'd heard
right.
it before.
It took me some time, but I'm 1 for 2. I'll take my 500 win, baby.
Hey, yes, that's right. Okay. Where was the biggest live show in the band's first 20 years?
I'm gonna New York City, Central Park.
Correct.
Yes,
Ding, ding,
I'm gonna
ding,
take
ding,
that one. That was.
ding.
Oh, correct me if I'm wrong. Free show and just it loaded in. Is that accurate?
Yes. I mean, I don't know.
Yes.
I
Okay.
wasn't there, but I heard, and it's like,
Oh
even
man,
if it wasn't free, how in the world could they control the population of people? Because I've seen the
that's
videos,
true.
right? Like, I wasn't there, unfortunately. I wish
Oh,
I
for
would have
sure.
been. It was epic.
I mean, it's kind of
But
like I don't
like,
know if you saw the in Miami they had this huge football or as we call soccer game
uh huh.
in Miami at the Dolphin Stadium, and it was two foreign countries that were playing in Miami, and instead of taking tickets after like an hour, they actually people were literally like they just mob rushed. They
Oh
were crawling
no.
through the vents to get in.
Oh my
Yes.
God. Oh my
So it was
God.
this
I
huge
mean,
ordeal. You'll have to look at it
talk
after.
about passion for
This video
sports,
was just,
right?
of course, they're coming from like different countries, and they're literally bum rushing security and then climbing through vents to see a soccer game. Yeah,
That's a whole different level that I haven't reached yet for the Dave Matthews Band. I hope I don't ever, but because I don't want to be threatening. I don't want to be that fan. I just want to be
no,
like a
that makes
nice
sense.
girl.
I was gonna say I've got some stories, but it doesn't include going through a vent by any means.
It's like, did you go through a vet to see the Dave Matthews Band?
As of this time in July 2024, we're not there.
No, yay. Hey, I mean, you'll have bail money for sure from all the fans if you end up doing something like that. So
Anyways, my friend, just
we
gotta get
got
raised.
you.
Look, I'm a little crazy. I think anybody that knows me can attest to that. But it can be a good and it can be a bad and a good crazy. So
Hey, that crazy is all right. Even Dave says that in his
that's good, my
song.
friend.
So, okay, so what was the Dave Matthews Band longtime keyboard player's name? Now I know that they've had a couple, but longtime keyboard player. What was
Is
his
it
name?
Butch?
Yeah, Butch Taylor. Butch Taylor.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
when I talk about Butch, right now, here's what I'm thinking. There are a lot of people
yeah.
talking about October. Of course, our favorite band, the Dave Matthews Band, is being inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. And
Yep.
so, we're all thinking about what does that look like? Because to me, and I think to most people, when bands are inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, we really do take a deep dive and a look at how this band was started and how it evolved into the band that has been successful for 30 years. And so when we look at the Dave Matthews Band, there are more people than who are currently on stage that are still alive and well.
Yeah.
And then, of course, we have lost one. Now, and I'm not necessarily talking about anyone except for Butch Taylor. And so, just so there's a couple of other names that are out there that are like, is he coming? And I'm not even going to discuss that. So,
Yeah.
Butch Taylor is still alive and well, of course, and friends of the band. And so, I just wonder, will he be there? Because he had such a big part of the band.
I would almost think that I won't say it's a necessity by any means, but for most people, they look at the band and they think of inclusivity.
Yes,
They think of
true.
what, and for that matter, when you have something that's been ongoing for this long, and so you look at the Butch who has been a staple for that long, regardless if it's been X amount of years since he's really been involved, so to speak, you have to kind of think to yourself, okay, really, I preach this and do that and the other. What would I really do here? You can't help but think absolutely.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I'm interested to see, and I know that we'll all be watching because it may not, we may not have it on the couch tour as we talked about earlier. No one knows. I don't know. You don't know. I don't
We
think
don't
anybody
know.
knows. I don't know the answer to that, but I'm 100% sure that this will be videotaped and available to all of us at some point. And so we will
Yes.
all see what happens
Multiple times.
This is, I've been telling, friends, anyone that will listen about the Dave Matthews Band because really no one in my life wants to hear about
Oh,
them.
don't feel bad. I was talking to a coworker today, and she's like, "What are you listening to?" Because I had Crush playing on my phone because I love the bass and it just sounds so funky, And
Yes, yes.
she's like, "What band is that?" And I'm like, "It's Dave Matthews Band. I don't know if you know him or anything like." She's like, "Who's that?" And I'm like, "How old are you?" And she says 19, and I'm like, "Okay, I need to get you
Yeah.
into this."
Yeah, if her
Nobody
parents didn't
ever,
teach her,
yeah,
yeah, she.
nobody gave her the little chance and said, "Hey, I need you to come check this out." So
No, I guess not. I mean, and that's, at that age, unless they just happen to fall into it by chance or their parents
yep,
have introduced it to them, it's hard to find the Dave Matthews Band in music because we get our music now from, XM, which are certain types of channels where you're only going to get certain types of music, and then digitally. So you are getting what you want. And so it would be hard to find the Dave Matthews Band if someone didn't tell you about them. Now,
of course,
obviously that was not the
it's
case in the
considered
90s,
modern
but
now, of
they
course.
are
Yeah,
not. They are not. They are not. I asked my daughter informed me, and I know that you don't have children, CJ, but my daughter informed me, who is 13, that this was mom and dad music, and that is how she labels it. So you are listening to mom and dad music, CJ.
I'm here for it, and I respect it. That's for sure.
I don't even know where she got that from. Probably just the fact that her mom and dad listened to it. But let's continue.
Also, there's a good chance that a friend heard it, or she heard it from a friend.
True.
And then she was like, she's like, "Oh yeah, I definitely got to use this now."
Yes, absolutely. Okay, so who plays the banjo in the album version of "Don't Drink the Water"?
Oh my gosh. I'm way off on who I'm thinking.
You got this. Got this. He's definitely appeared with the band, even throughout time through now.
I'm silly for thinking Bella Flag that it's not, obviously, and so
It is.
Is
it is
okay,
though.
So it is Bella
yes.
Flag. Okay, I was like, it's not, but it might be.
It is. See, you know more than you want to give yourself credit for. I think you do know a lot about this band. I think you do.
I'm just a little humble fellow. That's it.
I mean, but you know a lot, and I think it's okay to say that because all that means is it's not a brag. It just means I have spent a lot of time investing in who this band is. No different than saying, "Hey, I've invested a lot of time in crafting my tennis game."
Correct.
No different.
That makes sense.
No different. It's the arts versus the sports, of course. But like I told someone today, I was like, I'm really just investing in the arts. Put it how you want it. Yes. That is what I'm doing, though. And then they're like, "Oh, yeah.
Okay?
Yeah. Me and like and thousands of other people. Okay, last question. I'm just saying. Well, she liked my answer, so I'm going to go with it. Okay, one more question, and then we're going to get back into your story. Okay, so what year did the famous Listeners Supporter concert, which is also a recording that we all can see, when did that happen?
When did it happen, or when did it release?
When did it actually happen? Like, when was that concert? So the listener supported. If that doesn't sound familiar to you, really dig into the different live albums that are available. I mean, just on any music app these days, it's so easy to really kind of dig into this band and look at everything. Start from 1991 and go through the progression of the decades. I think each decade is important when you're listening to the Dave Matthews Band to see how it is that, because you can see how it ended up where it is. And so I love that. But Listener Supported is definitely one of those albums that everyone talks about.
It's 90s.
It is, definitely. I mean, just right at the very end.
I'm gonna go 99.
Yes, it was. It was September 11th,
really?
1999.
Wow.
And oddly enough, it was in a building called the American Airlines Arena.
Whoa.
That's a lot.
That's a lot. Galore for that one.
That's a lot. I mean, coincidence. There was, things for years and years on September 11th, but that of course is when that happened. So,
Yeah.
okay, let's dig back into you. So, take
Yeah.
us back to when you really like thought, well, I want to see them live. I want to
Yeah.
go see them. When was that and how old were you?
Yeah, of course. So if I'm not mistaken, they played at the Hangout. You might have to correct me. Is it 2011, 2012 ish? But of course, I wanted to see them prior, but it was kind of trying to find a way how. And I will say, as much as my mother loves me and still does to this day, she's the greatest person on the whole planet, and I live and die and breathe by that. Okay. She was very strict about things, and that's probably for
Sure.
good reason because
Of
me and my
course.
buddy Michael, I've told you about already. We were into some pretty good mischief, like anybody else in our younger years, right? And so we would try to plan beach trips, or we would try to plan to go see that. But at the end of the day, unless my mother had this person's parents' name and address and phone number and stuff like that, it really wasn't going to go down in terms of how we really wanted it to go.
Right.
So with Tasha being in college, she got to see Dave live, of course, but it wasn't to a point where my mom would say, "Hey, you can go with Tasha to go see this concert or anything."
Right. Because she's how much older than you?
Oh,
5? Is
she's
that what you
12.5
said?
years older than me,
Okay.
exactly.
Okay.
And so Tasha certainly didn't have like pit tickets by any means. It was always just going to be like uppers, or it's going to be a lawn of that nature.
Yeah.
I'm not even sure how many shows she has seen. But it was one of those things. It was probably 2010 where I was like, hey, I want to go check this band out. But how do I make this happen? And so I lived in a small town called Phoenix City, Alabama, which is about 45 minutes southeast of Auburn, Alabama. And so the closest place that they would even remotely play is either going to be Atlanta or Birmingham.
Gotcha.
And nobody was going to. I hate to say that nobody's going to take a 14-year-old to go see Dave Matthews Band an hour and a half away. If one, somebody's in college, doesn't have time, or two,
Sure.
the parents just aren't interested. And
Sure.
so
Sure.
we moved. My mother and I moved to Birmingham, Alabama, in the fall of 2012. And sure enough, the next spring, my good buddy Bailey Miller and I were very close friends. I found that he liked Dave. I'd go stay with him at his house and stuff, even on school nights, which was awesome because I knew that what we were basically mostly going to be able to do was hang out, listen to Dave, talk more about it, and just kind of be good friends and buddies.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like, it seems like the American dream if you really think about it.
Exactly. Yeah.
And we got his dad to find some tickets for us. Again, we don't know about Warehouse. We don't know
Sure.
about Pit. We don't know
Yeah.
about this, that, and the other because we're old enough now, but it's to the point where we're still so new in this journey that we are so, I mean, we are, goodness gracious, still very, very early on in terms of
Yes.
knowledge, not everything.
Right.
And so I'll never forget, I needed to save up $140 for an upper ticket at Oak Mountain Amphitheater in Pelham, Alabama. And I'm thinking this is just a great deal. I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm super excited. And so my uncle was the superintendent of maintenance at a golf course about 12 minutes from the house. And I would go and mow greens on a golf course on weekends trying to save money. I would work on my Uncle Brian's tree crew, like on the ground crew and stuff like that, trying to save up money to be able to do this. I was also
Yeah.
working at Publix at the time, just trying to save money to be able to do this because
Yeah.
I knew this is what I wanted. And so Tasha had already graduated college at this point, and it's kind of like, okay, cool. It's one of those things that I can't super be upset about, that she won't go with me, but I knew that I had a good buddy, and ironically, she had a good friend of ours that we grew up with in Phoenix City that I knew was going to be at the show. And so I'll never forget, we get dropped off, super excited. We're tailgating with my sister's friend, Scott Roche, at the time. I'm like, dude, this is awesome. I'm back to older times. I'm hanging out with people, that I grew up with. I know I'm feeling the vibes, the nostalgia's coming back in,
Yeah.
and I just can't wait. And when I was in high school, I wanted to be in a fraternity more than anything because I thought that dressing this way and partying and stuff like that, I thought that it was gonna help me be accepted by those that were my sister's age because that's what they were doing.
Mm-hmm.
And so it was such a great time. And I did end up having some beverages And if I'm not mistaken, they opened the show with O, either O or yeah, if I'm not mistaken, it was O. And
Wow.
I was like,
Wow.
I don't know this song. I was like, I don't know what's happening. Like, what's going on? And then they even played Mercy that night, which was really cool. And still, so you're hearing these songs, and it's not the classics that you think of, obviously. But
Yeah.
then it's kind of like you're the fish at this point, and Dave is tossing it out and saying, "Hey, I've got this new stuff. You need to check it out." And so I'm very open and receptive at this point, and hearing these, and I'm like, well, I'm not sure what that was, but I liked it. It was cool, you
Yeah.
know. And by the end of the night, I was just so I couldn't believe I had just seen Dave Matthews Band. I was just absolutely ecstatic, just
Yeah.
over the moon. And the next over the next probably over the next year, I started dating this girl, and she was not she was okay with me being pretty excited about Dave Matthews Band, but she didn't have her own personal liking. One would say,
Right,
obviously.
right, right, right. And that's okay.
Uh, I'll never forget. I was working for the Men's Warehouse. It's a clothing place, and we were we had found out that January that Dave was coming to Tuscaloosa, and this is 2015. And I was like, Bailey, we've got to go. I was like, we're gonna do Pit. Still don't know about the warehouse, but
Ah.
I found Pit tickets, and so I'm like, holy smokes, this is gonna be awesome. Tuscaloosa is a very it's a massive pit, but the
Mhm.
entire amphitheater itself, instead of having like actual seats, it's bleachers.
Oh, dang.
And so it's a rather small venue uh,
Mhm.
with a big pit,
Yeah.
but I'm in the very back, and it was just awesome. But what was awesome is I'll never forget that week. I went outside of Men's Warehouse, and I was like, man, I wonder where they're playing this week. The show's not till Wednesday or something. And sure enough, I found out this is on a Monday. Sure enough, I found out that the next night they were going to be playing in Orange Beach at the Wharf. And
Oh, in
so
Florida.
it's Orange Beach, Alabama, but
Oh,
it's
it's Alabama.
literally
That's right.
it's on the line.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Yes, that's right.
And so I called Bailey and I was like, "What are you doing tomorrow?" And he was like, "Oh, I don't know, probably intern stuff." I was like, "What would you say if I bought us both tickets? We drove to Orange Beach for the day since I'm off. We're gonna see the show, drive back overnight. I've got to work, and then we'll go that evening again to see them in Tuscaloosa." And he's like, "Sure." And
Sounds like a good plan.
I'm like, "This sounds fantastic." And sure enough, there was so people, scalp all the time for tickets and stuff like that,
Oh yeah.
etc. But I'll still, this doesn't include free, but I'll still never be able to beat this deal. We're on the way to the show, and I ended up finding a ticket. There's a website called BigStub.com, and this is not a promotion. This is not an advertisement. This is just what it was. And sure enough, I had found pit tickets for $35 a piece.
Holy shit.
Yes,
That's
and so
unheard of.
I told Bailey, I was like, "Hey, dude, don't even worry about the $35. I just want you to go." And
Yes.
so yeah, so the next morning, I'm sorry, because I ordered them the night before. We had to have them overnighted, and so I'll never forget us having to go to a FedEx place over on Oxmoor Road, which is like 45 minutes the opposite way to Orange Beach, just to be able to pick them up.
Oh my god.
Yes, and so we turn around, and I know for if you compare this to others, driving 5 hours, like that's not too bad. It's most people's local shows. But
Yes.
I remember turning around and I was like, "Hey man, let's pump in Dave and Tim live at Luther College." Ironically, and I'm like, "Let's get rolling." And so we go down there, and this is the first time that I found out that people in the pit are serious.
Oh yeah. What did you
So
see? Like, what made you think that?
so we get down there. As I mentioned, the pit's massive.
Hmm.
I mean, it is huge. Think of Alpine, just not as wide, but
Uh-huh.
certainly it's deeper though. So just,
Okay.
as I condense the width, but push it back. So I mean, it's just
Yeah.
huge.
Yeah.
We probably roll in because I remember, I'll never forget, we went to the beach first for a little bit for maybe like an hour because we just got down there. And if you're not,
Yeah.
near the beach, as you know, in Arkansas, you're like, hey, I want to go to bed.
Yeah. I'm gonna go see it. I'm gonna at least see it. Yeah.
And we knew it was just going to be, we weren't going to sleep overnight anywhere. So I'll never forget getting, so we drove down there. I changed at a visitor center bathroom, threw on some deodorant, spread on some cologne. I had a Rowdy Gentleman t-shirt on. And yeah, we found parking at the wharf. It was probably a quarter of a mile away. It wasn't too bad. And we walk up, get a pit wristband, if I'm not mistaken, which I think I still have. I should at least. And I was like, holy smokes, this is really cool. I was like, this is really neat. And so I just looked at Bailey and I was like, two. So we just kind of like pushed each other in an aggressive, like,
Yeah.
hey, we made it. We made it.
Yes.
And I told Bailey, I said, we're getting to the front. Yeah. And so for those listening and watching, yeah, I had no idea.
Yeah. He was a first timer. He didn't know the rules.
This is where it gets rather interesting. And so
I can't wait.
I told Bailey, I said, dude, hey, just stick with me. He's taller than me. He was probably 6'2" at the time. I'm 5'8" and some change. And I'm like, hey, just stick with me. I'm going to lead us through. I'm hopefully just going to talk our way through it. And our story was that we had a buddy named Jeremy that was going to be at the front of the line, front of the.
Jeremy, I know. Yeah, Jeremy. Jeremy's up front. Yeah.
So we get probably. I mean, we don't make it far. We probably get 4 to 5 people deep.
Yeah.
And this guy had a backwards hat on and some sunglasses, had a beard in his hand, and he was like, "Oh, where do you think y'all are going?" And I was just like, "Oh, we're up here seeing my buddy Jeremy. He's holding our spot up here, man. Ain't no big deal at all." And he calls us immediately, and he goes, "Hey, Jeremy, where are you at?"
Oh,
hey,
shit.
Yes, he's automatically like checking us like on the spot.
I love that.
Me and Bailey are like, oh, shoot. Like,
yeah.
Oh, frick. And so everybody around us knew right off the rip. I will say at this point, it's not that we had made it far, but it was closest we had ever been, obviously.
Sure.
And so everybody around was like, we've been here since 6 a.m. No way you're getting up here. So sure enough, like an angry mob, just get the fuck out of here. Da, da, da. So we get to the back, and this super sweet couple, if I saw their face, I'd probably recognize them. I don't remember their names whatsoever. And they're like, you get pushed back, and we're like, yeah, we really wanted to be up there. And they were like, don't feel bad. It happens to everybody the first time.
Yeah.
So it was really cool. I was really excited. You know, we still ended up getting we ended up having a blast. It was just, it was so much fun. And we left that night. We get about an hour back of our 4.5 hour trip back to the house. And I'm like, hey, dude, I need you to drive. And so he didn't have to work the next day. I did.
Good God. And, how did you do it?
We get back. I wake up. I think I showered, even though I was wearing a suit at the time. But I think I showered to go to work. I can't remember. But all I remember, though, I didn't care what I was going to wear at work. I remember what I was going to wear to the show that night.
Yes.
Going to Tuscaloosa, obviously.
Priorities.
I had some red, white, and blue chubbies. The shorts on, just a white tee, and I had like my coasters and stuff. The frat boy look, as I had mentioned.
Oh, yes.
That I just really wanted to portray to everybody.
Yes.
For the sakes. And so, we get down there, and we're in the pit, and it was just such a great time. Actually, that was the poster I showed you a minute ago, actually, or a few minutes ago. The elephant.
Oh yeah. Oh, it's so beautiful, really.
Yes. And so, with me being an Alabama fan, Roll Tide, and went to Alabama, so they have a bunch of my tuition money, obviously.
Yeah, they got your money.
Yes, they have my money. So anybody that wants to fight, you are more than welcome to have an opinion if you want to go ahead and pay my money towards them, as I do now.
I mean, you can't deny that Alabama is like the strongest when it comes to football. I mean, like, it is what it is. Like, they got us. They got us all. It hurts, but it's the truth. Statistics don't lie.
You know what's wild is that I didn't find out till later on. Remember how I told you that I knew like 6 months prior that we were going to have Pitt?
Oh, yeah.
Do you know why they were so expensive?
I don't.
They were premium.
Oh, shit. So were they giving posters and the whole thing like with that package like they are now?
I had no idea.
Oh, so you didn't get your stuff?
No.
Oh, no.
I thought they were just super expensive tickets.
Of course. Well, I mean, you wouldn't know.
because I'll never forget buying them. And I think the guy's name was Jason. He lived in Mississippi. I was like, hey man, I definitely want to buy these tickets. I'm super
Hmm.
excited. Me and my buddy Taylor are going, but I mean, it was expensive, obviously, for premiums.
Yes. God.
Even in 2015, it was stupid expensive because this
Yeah.
is when you actually go to the show and collect your items there,
Oh,
which
okay.
I didn't know then. And so I'll never forget being like, "Hey man, I don't think I want the tickets anymore." And he was an attorney and was like, "Oh, I'm an attorney. We have a verbal contract. You have to get these now." And I was just like, I was terrified. I was absolutely
Goodness.
horrified. And I was like, okay. All right. Well, I guess
Right?
I don't have a choice. Super glad I did. But
Yes.
it took probably another year for me to realize when I started to kind of finally develop and get into find out what the warehouse is, etc., so on and so forth. I was like, "You're telling me this?" Went back and looked at the ticket, and sure enough, it's a premium ticket.
Yeah. Dang it.
So
Dang
I
it.
had
But
to,
you still got the poster from that
yeah.
night, but
So
you just paid
well,
extra for it.
I didn't get it. I was gonna say, I didn't get it at the show. I ended up getting it off of eBay,
Okay. God bless. Did
which
you have to pay a lot for it?
it wasn't
Like,
a tremendous amount. I mean, if
okay,
you were to
good,
think about
good.
it now, even I mean, I've seen ones 2 days ago that somebody bought for obviously 65 right now, and they flipped it immediately for a 135, and I paid
Yep.
135 for this elephant over here.
Oh, okay. Okay. Well,
And
that's not
so
terrible. I mean, time.
that's
They
going to
charge for their
be
time.
I'm gonna consider that my poster tax.
Yes. Yes. I mean, it's the hard work that they did to get and then they held on to it and kept it safe, and like you're paying for
Horrible,
all of that. So,
horrible, but true because it cracks me up sometimes. I'll think, oh man, poster flipping really just started a couple years ago, and it's like,
but man, it is a whole game. And speaking of posters, I want to be sure to say this over and over because I don't think enough people know about this. Because I asked CJ if he knew about this earlier, and he did not. So, speaking of posters, if you are part of the poster game, if you enjoy, because it is a game, like it is a whole different thing to do inside of the fanhood of the Dave Matthews Band, is collecting these posters. Of course, every single show has its own poster, sometimes by the same artist, sometimes by different artists. Sometimes they'll do a trilogy poster if it's a 3-night event, and night you'll have to have night 1, night 2, and night 3 in order to make it a complete. And so like they've got a whole game going on, and it's beautiful, lots of different artists. So if you are into that game, or if you just really like knowing more about art, because posters are art, no matter what people say, there's actual artists that design these and print these. And so they are legitimate art. So there's a podcast, and if you found this podcast, if you're listening to this, then I know that you can find this one. It's simply just under posters in every direction. And so, of course, if you're a Dave Matthews Band fan, that'll make sense to you. It's easy to remember because, posters in every direction. And so they really, each week, they give us an episode where they break down a poster from the world of the Dave Matthews Band. And a lot of times they'll have that poster's artist come on the show to talk about, why they did what they did, secret meanings inside of that poster. So be sure to check that out if you're into a poster game. So are you really, like, do you consider yourself to be in the poster game, CJ?
I think I was more in the poster game, circa 2000, between 2016 and 2019.
Yeah.
I had a solid little stretch where I wanted pretty much every poster almost out there. I can't say
Mm-hmm.
every single one, but I had it a goal of mine. If I liked the art, I liked it a lot. When I was younger, I liked scuba diving. I learned that I was a certified scuba diver in 2008. So I
Oh,
mean, it's been
awesome.
16 years. So if I see something along the lines that has like scuba divers in it, that has dolphins, that has whales, things like that, I really enjoy because it just again it takes me back. And so I have that. It certainly if it has to if it has a tie to me, then I'll get it.
Mm-hmm.
If it
Yeah.
doesn't, then I usually don't. But now I'd say now I've calmed down tremendously. I know people that get posted. Literally, I've got a couple buddies of mine that pretty much everybody knows that get a poster for every show. Literally, they get it on
Mm-hmm.
the drop every time.
Yep. Yep.
Um, and what they do with that I don't
That's
care.
their business. Yeah,
Yes,
their
I mean,
business.
do what you want, but I still think it takes a lot of dedication, obviously, to be able to collect as much as they
Good
do.
Lord. Absolutely. I
So,
mean, it is. It's a
I
dedication
was
for
about to say,
sure.
and I think now I probably get more just posters of the shows that I've been to. I've settled down so much
Yes.
when it comes to that.
Yes.
I was even proud of myself. I didn't get the night one from Deer Creek night one. Even though I went to the show, I just didn't. I wasn't feeling it that night. I'm kind of
It
kicking
didn't
myself,
speak to you.
you know, right?
Yes,
That
they
was a
have to
whole.
speak to me.
That was a whole. That was I had a lot of luck. I didn't have a ticket even at the show itself.
Hmm.
Ended up buying a lawn and had a buddy of mine that was like, "Hey man, I want to gift you this," and I was like, "What?" He was
That's
like, "Yeah,"
amazing.
because I would still do. I mean, this is nothing, but I used to do 10 and 12 shows a year, and now I probably do maybe 4, 5, 6, maybe 7.
Yeah.
So this person has, a really good ties to the band and stuff, more than pretty much anybody I know. And he was like, "Hey man, I want to bless you with this. I miss seeing you around at shows and stuff like that." And so I was like, "Dude, that's just awesome." And so it was just playing a cat and mouse of trying to find friends because, as you're aware already, when you haven't seen your friends in a year, you want to be able to see everybody at the same time. And
Yeah.
so it's just one of those things that I want to be able to see everybody, because man, there's people that I've got friends I met from Dave that are it cracks me up. People are like, "CJ, this band is not real life," and I'm like, it may not be. I can understand that. We all go back to work and stuff like that. But
Sure.
some of the friends that I've made are my best friends that I'll have for lifelong. So
That's right. That's right. So, I mean, I think this begs the question like, how did you get connected into the community? Because that's yet another step to take as a fan of the Dave Matthews Band is, there's all these things you can get into and you can be into all of them or one of them or whatever. But getting plugged into the community of fans is is a beautiful thing. So, how in the world did you get welcomed in? Like, how did that happen?
of course, easy answer. So 2016. So it's the we only did I only did 2 shows that tour. That was
Hmm.
2015, of course, the Orange Beach and the Tuscaloosa. So the
Yeah.
next year, I met an old friend of mine named Jesse Goley, and he ended up being a huge fan as well, like even big as myself. And again, when you find people that are still of my age at the time that even know who Dave is, it's a rarity. But then when you find
Yes.
somebody who's like enthusiastic, you're like, "Hey, you kind of attach yourself to him. You're like, "Hey,
Yeah.
I
We're
know
gonna
you
be
don't know me.
friends.
I know you, I was about to say, did we base it? It's kind of like Pet Boys, like, did we just become best friends?
Yes.
That's what it felt like. And
Yes.
we again, the girl I was dating at the time could not stand Dave at this point because I think it
Mhm.
was more of an attention thing. Like they were getting more attention
Sure.
than she
I
was.
get that. I get
And
that.
me and Jesse, we have pit tickets. All right, we have pit tickets. And just as at the time, where there is no lottery or anything like that, you line up, and where you line up and there wasn't Sharpie. People
Yeah.
think there's just two. People think there's just lottery or Sharpie. There wasn't this. It was actually a
It was
pretty.
just
It was just
staying
kind
in
of like
line.
lined up. Yes, it was really
Hmm.
nice. And
Yeah.
so, some of my very, 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 very good friends, Jason and Megan and their daughter Stella from Ozark, Alabama. Shout out to them.
Hey.
I was sitting in the line with Jesse. It was hot as balls in Atlanta, Georgia,
Hmm.
2016.
Hmm.
I'll never forget it. And sure enough, ended up on the rail. And
Damn.
this is like my fourth show ever.
Oh
And
my
this
God.
and this is Jesse's first show.
Oh my God.
Yes.
Could
So
he even appreciate it?
that is yes, and so people are going to be like, "What? I've been to 30, I've been to shows for 30 years, and never been on the rail, this, that, and the
I
other." And
know. I
you
know.
catch a lot more flies with honey than you do vinegar. And sometimes really
Amen.
you're at the right place at the right time.
That's
We had,
right. Yes.
we had, we didn't. Jesse and I didn't realize at the time that I'm not going to say that rail wasn't a thing, but we didn't realize the magnitude of how lucky we were to be where we were, like in that line.
Yeah. Yeah.
We're just trying to hang out and really kill time because it's like, oh gosh, it was probably like 12:30. We just thought we were here when we
Dang.
were supposed to. It was early.
What? Right.
So we're walking around, we're not drinking or anything like that. And yeah, sure enough, we sit down, meet these people, and we're like, "Oh, cool, where are you guys from?" If you talk to anybody that knows me, they're usually talking one of two things. I'm really loud goofy, southern, whatever the case may be. But I've always tried to just meet new people, obviously.
Yes, yeah.
And Megan and Jason have become some of my very best friends. They may not live right next to me, of course. They live a few hours south of me in Ozark. But ironically, I was delivering a vehicle to a customer in Dothan, Alabama, within the last 7 or 8 months. Now, keep in mind, this is 3 hours away from my home. I'm taking a vehicle to somebody. Okay.
Yeah.
We're just taking it to this person. I'm having them sign some paperwork and come back. Well, I have one of my drivers with me, and we're on the way back to the store, and I see a vehicle next to me, and I'm like, "Oh, cool! There's a fire dancer, dude! Like, I never see these around here anymore." And so I'm like, "Hey, Larry, pull up! I want to wave at him. I want to say hey to him." Like, we're on the road. I'm like, "Dude, you have to get by him." And so sure
Yes.
enough, we roll down the window, and it's Megan
No
that I was so
way.
stressed out of all the people in the world and at 3 hours away, have
That's
no idea.
insane.
Her and her husband have a pizza place in Ozark, Alabama. I highly recommend. And I'm like, oh my God, it's Megan. Megan, oh my God, I love you so much. And she's like, CJ. But that's how that started. Ended up actually catching one of Carter's sticks that night.
No
I've
way.
got, I've got it custom framed right here. This is Lakewood Amphitheater 2016. It's the girl in her bed, blanket over her. Brian Paul did this custom work for me. It was really an excellent job. I won it from a waffle for an opportunity in this.
Oh, yes.
That was really cool. That was 2016, and I met a lot of awesome people. That's where I ended up. It was just one of those things that was very vanilla. Again, I
Hmm.
had no idea about the warehouse.
Yeah.
I didn't know about cash or trade. It was just one of those things that was very just natural. And I met one of my friends, Jenny Freed from Florida, there on the rail. Uh, Actually, my memory is so beyond strange sometimes. I met this lady named Kelly and her daughter Sierra. They were right behind me in the pit. I actually saw them for the first time at Alpine Night 2 in 8 years.
Wow. Did they
Yeah.
remember you?
Yeah, so I'm in the lounge, which is certain access and whatnot where you can get like food and free drinks, and I don't drink.
Yeah.
I was getting food. I was eating up on that fruit. And so
Yeah. Yeah.
I was concentrated at Alpine.
Yes.
And I look around and I'm like, no way. I'm like, what? And so I'm like, Miss Kelly. She turns around and she's like, CJ? And I'm
Holy
like,
crap.
I'm like, I haven't seen you guys in 8 years. She's like, it's been that long? I said, it just clicked in my brain. I said, 2016 Atlanta. It was so wild. I remember where her daughter worked at the time because she was so nice. I mean, it was just I remember these conversations because that's where it stuck with me and stuff.
Right, right, right. Just how kind she was and
Yeah,
how that's a crazy common thing amongst this community is just the kindness that's shown by literal strangers, right? Like we
yes,
don't know these people. We know one thing about
no,
them when we go into these things like the shows and meetups or whatever. We know that they like the music of the Dave Matthews Band.
everybody has this one thing in common, regardless of your
Yes.
political view, or regardless of it
Yes.
doesn't matter. It doesn't matter
Yes.
color, nationality. It does not matter. In
Mm,
fact,
that's right.
the next week, the girl I was dating at the time, I keep mentioning to her because she's relevant to this. I took her to her first show at Oak Mountain here in Birmingham. And so we get to our seats. We are 200 level. There is no pit. It's just 100, 200, and then upper seat.
Hmm.
And we sit down probably an hour and some change before they come out on stage and all. And this guy next to me goes, "Hey, man, I'm about to marry this girl. Do you want to be my best man?"
Holy crap.
Yeah. And so his name is Jared Jones. And so I'm like, "Of course I do. Why wouldn't I?" And so
Wow.
they get married in the aisle right there at the show, funny enough, right before it started and all. And he became one of my very, very good friends.
Wow.
They were from Eufaula, Alabama. Um, we always did the little, Birmingham, the Wharf, Atlanta shows together.
Yeah.
His wife Allie. Unfortunately, in 2021, I got a message from one of our mutual friends and everything like that he took his life.
Oh my
And so,
goodness.
um,
Oh, I'm so sorry.
it's one of those things that lately they've been playing "Digging a Ditch," and that was one of the songs that they played at his funeral. Not because that was, I know it sounds silly. It was so wild because people in Eufaula, I had never met them before, and they'd be like, "Oh my gosh, you're the CJ that Jared traveled with. You're his day buddy and stuff."
Oh,
And
wow.
that was probably one of those times that I'll never forget meeting them, because that was the next time after Atlanta that I had that, wow, this band and these people are different.
Mm-hmm.
Because Abby's looking at me and she's like, what? Like, she was homeschooled and stuff. She had
Yeah.
no idea about any of this, And
Right.
we actually later found out, and yes, I'm about to get some slap for this because everybody already thinks everybody in Alabama is related regardless.
I hear that about Arkansas. It's not true for any of the states
Thank you. I'm like, come on,
as
man.
a whole.
And I found out later that Jared, his mom, is related to my cousin-in-law.
Oh,
Yes,
well,
so like,
that's beautiful though. I mean, like your
like,
family, like legit.
like down the road by marriage,
Sure.
we were actually related. And so,
Wow.
Jared was one of those people. He was absolutely goofy. He was tall. He was kind of bigger, but we had some awesome stories. We actually stayed the night at a venue overnight one time the night before, so we could have the first essential spots.
Oh my God.
So myself, him, Marty McKinney, and Allie
Yes.
stayed the night in Pensacola at the Pensacola Bay Center, just essentially their version of the Civic Center in 2019.
Okay. Uh-huh.
And this was my first show back, if I'm not mistaken. Yes, because I had gone through some unfortunate mental health issues, and so they were
Mm-hmm.
like, "Hey man, first show of the year, like let's go to Pensacola." And so sure enough, I stayed in my car, and half the night on an air mattress in the back of my car, and then half the night on an air mattress on top of my car.
Oh
And
my
so
God.
we just had such a good time, but lo and behold, the next day at about 5 o'clock, where we had pretty much already said, "Hey, we're right here" and stuff, one of the guys from the warehouse comes out and says, "Hey, this is the first show of the year, etc. We're actually doing a lottery system."
Oh shit.
And so we're like, "Excuse me? What?
Oh man.
I'm sorry. Come again?"
Right?
Um, hey, this isn't making sense. And so we're like, "Dude, we just stayed overnight
Oh,
here."
slept on top of your car.
My car, Allie and Jared were just passed out and stuff on an air mattress in the parking lot. I mean, it was like, excuse me. And sure enough, thankfully, one of my friends was actually at number 2, or we had the second spot.
Awesome.
She had heard about it, and we were only a couple rows back. It still wasn't bad. It was being very
Yeah.
stingy, and it was more about
Yeah, I
principle at
know.
that point,
I mean,
obviously.
you got there first,
Yeah.
but yeah.
And
Yeah.
so, she sure enough put me in the very front. I mean, I'm directly in front of Dave, and so it was 2008, 2016, 2018, 2019. That's really when it kind of, I mean, it took off hardcore. I mean,
It can get away from you real quick.
it can get away with you real quick. And so in 2018 and 19 is when I met some really good friends of mine, Angela Cooper. I met
Yes.
Janine, and so they
Oh,
were real sweet.
yes.
And Angela, I met at Deer Creek. It was the first time I'd ever been to Deer Creek in 2018. I was actually looking for another friend named Angela. It wasn't Angela Cooper. It was just Angela. I can't remember who. It was Angela. I think her last name is now Lemon. Sean, married to Sean, if I'm not mistaken. She works at Costco. Anyways, and Angela Cooper goes, "Hey, you're CJ, right?" And I was like, "Yeah, I'm CJ." She was like, "Hey, I'm Angela. Come with me." And so it was always just this very welcoming, just people don't understand. They just,
Yeah.
you
No.
don't get it. And
Because there's not a lot of things like it. There's
no,
not.
not at all. And I ain't even bring it up. There's just the day that the band announces their final go around and stuff like that, it's going to melt everybody, obviously. But
Hmm.
it's so hard to even consider, even fathomable, because as we've talked about, everybody is all together at once for at least one common objective, and that's just to see the
Hmm.
music of Dave Matthews Band.
Yes.
And so I want to be able to enjoy that, even though I wasn't lucky enough to be born in the 70s or the
You
80s.
can't help when you were born.
That is precisely it. I try to tell everybody that. They're like, oh my gosh, you're a baby. And I'm like, thank you, Captain Obvious.
I mean, yeah, like I can't control that.
I'm a
But I'm
Christian.
here.
And so
But you're here.
here now. And it's been fantastic. I've
Oh
been so
man.
blessed. And I would love to have seen some more shows this year. I don't think that'll happen just because with work and everything like that. Something, if I can get some time off, great. But, things are expensive and you got to work.
God bless. Yeah, they do. I mean, we have to work so that we can afford to do these things, right? Because no matter what, they're just not free. They're not even free on the couch tour, right? Because we have to pay for the internet or our cell phone or however we're getting it. So like we got to work so that we can pay to play. And so yeah, I mean, I wish that I was doing. I cut off right after Dallas, which is it's been a minute. I mean, I know, my God, I right at the end of the tour, but I still got 9 shows in this summer or this year, so I can't like complain.
Absolutely not.
I cannot complain.
No, I mean, I didn't even get to hit my home show because of work. I didn't get to hit.
What?
I didn't get to hit Atlanta. I didn't get to hit Jacksonville night 1 or 2 because of work. I couldn't get off. I'm a finance manager.
Oh my God.
So
oh,
they were like, end of the month. Absolutely not. You don't get time
oh
off.
my God.
I've got to get deals funded and do this and that. And they're like,
I get it. I get it. So you did Deer Creek. And then what else?
At 1 and 2 in Alpine. Those are the only 3 that I've done so far. I really wanted to do. I can't say really wanted. I wanted to do Bristow with Tina Taylor, and then was even wanting to do Camden night 1 and 2. Obviously, hasn't happened yet. But that's just not gonna. It's not gonna pan out.
Yeah, I mean, we could keep wishing though. I mean, like I'm that silly girl that will like hand to God, and my husband knows this about me, but it's embarrassing. Like the other day, he was like, "Hey, I'm gonna be gone. I'm gonna go do this and the other." And my kids left, and they were going doing this, that, and the other, and I'm by myself. And I'm like, "Well, I don't have anything to do." Hand to God, picked up the phone and Googled how much would it cost to fly me to Virginia to go watch the Dave Matthews Band. I'm like, girl, put your phone down. Put your phone down.
Stop, CJ, stop. I mean, my goodness, you talk about considering, I wonder if I can call out for this day, if I'll get in trouble this much. And I'm like, okay, now get this. A flight from Atlanta to Philly in round trip.
Mm-hmm.
It's going to be on the cheaper side, so I can give you just a guess here. Guess how cheap it was. One person, of course, round trip from Atlanta to Philly round trip.
I mean, Atlanta's such a big airport. I'd like to think they got a lot of cheap flights. I'm gonna guess $199. Less?
Keep going.
Oh God, like $149. I feel like I'm on Price is Right. They're like the yodeling guy. 99.
Just a little bit more.
98.
$90 round trip.
$90. That was like God going, CJ, please go to see the Dave Matthews Band.
One of the worst temptations I've had in the past few days, and I even told Jean, I told Suzanne Zorley, and she was like, do it. She was like, CJ, do buy the flight. And I'm like, oh gosh, I can't.
I mean, $90? $90.
I know, but the thing is.
But you also have to drive to Atlanta and park your car in Atlanta and pay for parking in Atlanta and eat while you're. I mean, like it adds up. So even though you might find that $29 flight, you're like, oh my God, I'm not going to spend any money.
That is precisely
that is wrong.
Really think about it. Just the Liquid Death and the poster itself is going to cost you $130.
Oh my God, absolutely. And you haven't even gotten a ticket, So it's just like, it sounds like a good plan. And believe me, I'm there with you every single concert. Like I'm watching the one in Guilford, New Hampshire going, can I get there tomorrow?
Yeah.
No, Renae, you cannot go to New Hampshire. You're in Arkansas.
That's how, trust me, I swear to you, that's exactly how I felt. And I'm sitting here and I'm like, Manfield, okay, if I'd leave here by my approximate calculation, if I leave and I only potty for 2 minutes, but I can still go stop at the Buc-ee's, and then I might stop. The calculation.
It's that adult math.
Yes.
It's the Dave Matthews Band math. Like all of a sudden I can do financials in my like head.
Funny enough, me and Adam Wheeler have a picture of us off to share with you from Alpine 2022 that one of our good friends Kimberly Butler took of us. And
Kimberly Butler, I love you. I hope you listen to this. I love her, love her, love her.
I love Kimberly Butler with all my heart.
Yes.
One of my besties. And she took a picture of us, and me and Adam we're looking with our sunglasses down like we're playing on a laptop, acting as if we're trying to get our financials together from work.
I mean, we got to get those spreadsheets going. Hand to God, I actually...
like, hey, man, we got to get these spreadsheets going before...
I did do that one year. Like, I created this whole spreadsheet because me and a girlfriend were, like, going in and we were going to do, like, this... like series of shows together, right? So we got to be like, okay, well, if you'll get the ticket for this, I'll get the hotel. But we had to keep up with like who was spending what, right? So I was like, we need a spreadsheet. So we had like the super like color coded spreadsheet. By the end of it, neither one of us could read what was going on that thing. We were like, I don't know.
In 2018 is when I really wanted to start seeing like different like travel and stuff like that. And so I ended up meeting Chris Terranova and
hey Chris, Brandon, I love you. So great people, man.
In Brandon, Mississippi, it was only the second show ever played at that amphitheater. They were stupidly new, like literally. It was the second concert ever played there.
Oh wow!
I met him there, and this girl named Cheyenne, and so we were talking to the people that were working.
I know Cheyenne.
Yes.
I swear to God.
We were looking in, and then we were like, "Look, you're gonna be Uncle Chris." And we're gonna be brother and sister to see if we can get let in early. We were just being stupid, of course.
Yeah.
So that just stuck. So I've always called him Uncle Chris. That's just kind of how it's always been. Even my mom knows him as Uncle Chris and stuff. And so
he's a great guy. He's a great guy.
Chris is good people, and so
he's
always been friendly. And so we would always, have to say, hey, you get the poster here, or Justin. When I finally met Justin would be like, hey, use your card real quick. Go grab us posters. I'll get this, that, and the other. And so, of course, it always has to swing out one way or another. I mean,
that's right. Teamwork makes the dream work, right?
Precisely. Now, there's no telling if things ever ended up adding up.
Probably not.
But I will say that the times and the memories of everything have been priceless, for sure.
Priceless. See, that's going to be a great Visa commercial or MasterCard or whatever it was that did the like priceless Dave Matthews Band fans and like $50 poster, $100 t-shirt, $300 hotel room, whatever, like all the things. And then experience of a lifetime. Priceless. I don't know. We need to make that commercial, CJ, and like just make it like...
We could retire and actually go to Guilford like you want to.
Let's go. Can we get there by tomorrow? I don't know. Probably not. I got a lot of shit.
You drop me at the airport.
I mean, I can do it if you can do it. Like, find us a free flight. I'm like down, but
you're telling me.
I know, right? I'm always on that. I'm like, dude, give me a free flight and a free ticket. I'm there.
Tomorrow is my off day.
Hey, well, just put it into the universe. Like, hello. I can go.
Come on, I can go now, please.
I mean, I don't know. You never know. Crazier things have happened. So, I can't thank you enough for being, just opening up time on a weekday night after work and just coming on to talk Dave with me. I mean, for me, talking Dave is like one of those sweet little times away from all of the shit, right? Like, I don't want to talk about bills. I don't want to talk about setting my alarm because I got to get up at the ass crack of dawn in the morning. I don't want to think about the dishes, like all the things, right? Like that are beautiful. I'm so thankful for, but also like, it'd be nice to like take an hour and not think about it. And that's what I have with this show. And you have provided that for me tonight. And also your story has provided so many people something to listen to that's words of positivity, encouragement that things are still going really good in this horrible world where terrible things are happening every day. And everybody wants to talk about that, but nobody wants to talk about the really good things that are still happening. And I believe that, one of those things is music, number one, but then also of course the Dave Matthews Band, but the fans behind the band, because it's a whole universe inside of a universe. It's just, it's so much, but it's such a beautiful story. And I don't want to not document how important this is, because like you said earlier, there will be a time.
Yeah.
I don't know when. You don't know when. We hope it's far, far away that someone's going to say something along the effects of, "Hey, this is our last year. It's a goodbye tour. It's a retirement. Hey, someone was injured. Someone died." Like, I don't know what the future looks like, but we're all getting older. Things happen. People have grandchildren, and our minds change because we want to spend our time somewhere else. And so, whatever that looks like, we want to make sure that we document the time that we do have, even if we didn't find the band until a few years ago. It's still, you found it. Celebrate that you found it, because someone said in another recording with me, we are closer to the end than we are to the beginning.
Amen
and so we
that.
need to realize that.
Oh my
we
gosh!
need to realize
I've
that.
met people at a show. I was on the rail with somebody. The kid's name was David. I want to say it was Raleigh, 2021. We were just joking around because we were like, "Yeah, we don't even have a place to stay tonight yet. We're already at the show." And the guys just met him 5 minutes ago, and he goes, "Oh, you'll just stay with me, man." And we're like,
Oh
"What?"
yeah.
He's like, "No, seriously, I have an Airbnb, the whole thing to myself." And he's like, "Y'all can all just stay with me." And we're like, "What?"
How amazing is that?
You don't find that. And just an everyday thing,
Right.
that just doesn't happen anymore.
It doesn't.
It never has. But outside the D&B community, and that's not disrespectful to anybody else. Let me phrase that. You find that more in the D&B community than you do anywhere else.
Yeah, at least in our lives, right? Like, I'd love, if you're listening to this and you know of communities that are similar, please let me know, because I want to look into that, and I want to talk about that, because again, that's what I'm trying to do, is like let people know there's still good things out there and still good people out there, because we often wake up and think, my God, everybody is off their rockers. What is happening, right? What is happening? And so, this is just some reassurance that there really is amazing people out there with amazing stories and just hearts full of love and just like ready to give it out. And so I love, love, love the fans of the Dave Matthews Band. So thank you for sharing yet another story of what impact this band has made in your life and in so many others.
Renae, thank you so much for having me. I think I can speak for everybody when I say we certainly do appreciate you and taking the time away from, your family and from Justin and everybody, and saying, hey, you really want to spread, what people's stories are like and stuff, and you just have this very abundant joy about you, and your aura, so to speak. That's I think what people are calling it nowadays, and so thank you as well. We appreciate it.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Guys, until next week, be sure to check out all of the socials so that you can see who's up next on this podcast. We always have someone coming up next, and you never know, it might be someone you know. But if you're interested in sharing your journey with the Dave Matthews Band, be sure to hit me up on any of the socials. Send me a message and say, hey, I'd just like to share my journey. And that's really all it takes. It's a very easy process. And so if you're interested, definitely reach out to me. But in the meantime, guys, peace, love, and Dave Matthews Band. Thank you so much, CJ.
Thanks, Renae.